Welcome, New Jersey, to the Papa Report. I'm your host, Joe Wilson. I'm joined today with John Papa, president of DPS Advisors, securing tomorrow's future today. John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
So excited to have this show today. I got a lot of stuff to talk about.
It's a great time to be talking about the financial markets. My goodness, the volatility we're seeing right now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy out there right now.
It really is. John, I know you have been talking with me before the show, and you've got some important things you want to cover today, and you want to start with Social Security, the impact it's having on folks, and really the income gap that so many folks just aren't aware of.
Right, exactly, Joe. We have clients come into our office all the time, and they're saying, you know, we have a set amount of income, we have our expenses, we have our budgets. If they're before 62, they don't know when to turn on Social Security. Yeah. They don't know when it's the right time to do that. So
sure.
we kind of cover the bases with them, try and give them an example of, let's get your expenses down in order. Let's see where your income's coming from. Maybe you have a pension, maybe you have some investments. Then we can try and decide when it should be the right time to turn on Social Security.
It seems like Social Security has changed in the recent years. I know there's been some changes, and it's shifted quite a bit. I can't imagine how important then it's going to be relying upon that savings, those savings accounts, to provide that income gap.
That's so true, Joe. Back in 2015, when we were sleeping at night, Congress voted to actually change all the laws on Social Security. You used to be able to file suspend, you used to be able to do some techniques to try and maximize that Social Security payment, but those days are gone. Those rules are over. It's pretty much you need to decide when you should turn it on. And it's a decision you get to make, you know, one time.
Well, it's a decision you need to make with some guidance, because you really don't get many do-overs with that, do you?
Well, absolutely. There are no do-overs.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll sit down with the clients when they come in and say, hey, listen, if we can move this turning on of Social Security to a later date, if we can take income from assets that you might have in other places, or if you do have a nice pension or something, or you're still working, well, then maybe we should delay that payment to Social Security, because not everybody knows that from age 65 to 70, if you delay that, you'll get an 8% increase in their Social Security benefit. So we try and point that out to people and make them aware of what their choices are.
You know, John, as we've talked, I look at retirement, right? And you saved all this time, you got your money, and you're hoping that Social Security is even going to be there to help you through that.
Right.
I mean, any thoughts on this current scenario where you're hearing more and more reports that Social Security is underfunded?
Right. And we hear that all the time, right? We hear in the media that Social Security is going to go under. In 2034, there's going to be no assets left for Social Security to pay benefits. I personally, Joe, don't believe that's going to happen. Yeah. Our politicians are great at kicking the can down the road.
Well, they've done it, haven't they?
They do it all the time. So, yeah, there might be a lower benefit that you're going to get later on in the future, but I do not see any in our lifetime that Social Security is going to be unfunded and it's going to be gone. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, that's great. But you brought up a good point, maybe lower. But if I'm retired and I'm no longer working, and if Social Security is a part of me retiring and covering my food and medicine and grocery, how do is that what you mean by the income? How do I bridge that gap?
Well, that is what we mean by the income gap. So we need to take a look at all of your assets. Where are you sitting right now? Do you have assets in IRAs or 401ks at work? Do you have investment plans outside of the qualified plan arena? Do you have a small pension? Do you have any pension at all? Are you capable of working longer if you are that tight in your income gap difference?
Now, if all that's in the market, and there's got to be just crazy volatility going on with that right now as well. And so, I mean, you've got that challenge in addition to maybe not having all your Social Security. How am I going to bridge this gap?
Well, that's definitely
with these volatile markets.
Definitely true, Joe. We come in, people come into our office and they're sitting with assets in mutual funds, stocks, bonds, and they're diversified in their portfolio. Their advisors telling them, you know, they're protected, they're okay. And meanwhile, in 2022, they're down 25% in their portfolio.
Oh my goodness.
And they're thinking, wait a minute, Social Security is going to be less of a benefit. My portfolio's down. You know, what do I do? And that's the question we get a lot in our office.
You get these statements, right, from these big box firms, and there's statements there, these numbers. There's nowhere on that statement, though, that tells you how much money you can take out and compare it with your Social Security. I don't know how these folks are doing this with this type of volatility on top of it.
No, that's the truth. No one's advising anybody. Okay, no one's helping anybody, and that's what we do with DPS advisors. You come into our office, we'll sit down with you, and we'll give you what we call our DPS report.
Oh, that's
okay.
Neat. Tell us about that.
And we'll tell you a little bit about, hey, where's your Social Security benefit? Bring your statement in. Let's take a look at it, and let's see if we can delay that if you have other assets. And the other thing that we also address is the person's health. No one talks about that when you're talking about when you should turn on Social Security.
Right.
You know, if you're sitting there and you don't expect to live to life expectancy, then maybe you should be turning it on a little sooner than later, because health plays a big factor and no one's addressing it.
Yeah,
so that's
and they're not giving you a big lump sum of money if you die right away, are they?
No, they're not.
Oh my goodness,
those days are over.
Well, John, I know you've got a special offer for our viewing audience today. Why don't you kind of tell them about it?
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't turned on your Social Security yet and you're 62 years old or you're a little younger than that and you don't know what you should do as to when you should turn it on, we'll give you what we call our DPS report. We're going to actually give you a report that's going to help you determine at what age is the right age to turn that Social Security on. We'll ask you health questions. We'll ask you how much assets you have in other places. We'll ask you if you're still working. We need to know those three factors so that we can actually help you and decide. So I think what you should do now, if you have no idea what you're doing with your Social Security, you should call 844-534-4452. Set an appointment, come on in a stress-free environment, and we'll give you a complimentary analysis on your Social Security plan and take it from there. So try and get a stress-free retirement.
I think it's so important. And this is what's so important. This is complimentary. Folks need this information. And this is folks. Listen, you get one shot at retirement, as John was telling you here. And the markets are volatile. And Social Security, is it there? Is it not? When to file? When not to file? Do yourself a favor. Call the team. Call John Papa. The Papa Report. 844-534-4452. John Papa is offering for the first 10 callers the DPS report, so you know how much money you have coming in when you retired, so you can stay retired. We're going to go to a short break, and when we come back, John, we want to talk about not fighting the Fed.
That's a great topic, Joe.
We'll be right back with you.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Folks, welcome back to the Papa Report. We're here with John Papa, president of DPS Advisors. John, you mentioned a statement here, and I love it, and I think it's pretty interesting, especially in light of what's going on in today's economy. Don't fight the Fed. Break that down. What does that mean?
Right. Well, people see today inflation's going through the roof.
Oh, my God. It's unbelievable.
At levels that we haven't seen in 40 years, Joe.
40-year highs.
I mean, it's crazy, right? And what can the Fed do to try and counterbalance that and that's their focus. That's their job.
Mandate.
Is to reduce inflation rate, basically.
Correct.
Right? So what they'll do is they'll raise their interest rates that they charge between banks and everything. And what that does is crushes the stock market. It crushes the bonds. So people are going to bonds for safety, and that crushes that. And we're in an environment right now where we're seeing everything in a person's portfolio is going down.
Yeah.
And there's no safety.
They're all correlated.
They're all correlated into each other, and they're all being affected, and they're all going down, and people are looking for answers, and they don't have them right now.
So the Fed's made it very clear, right, as you said, that they have one job, and that is to get this raging inflation where gas is just. Well, where's the last time you filled up with gas? What did you pay? Do you remember?
Yeah, right. So a few months ago, I paid about $40 to fill up. I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and just a couple days before I came out to shoot the show, I wound up paying almost $100.
Unbelievable.
To fill up a tank of gas.
Yeah, I had 130 the other day I was traveling.
Nuts.
I couldn't believe it. And the Fed knows that it's hurting everyday Americans, and so they're raising these rates to help get this under control. But I find it interesting, if you tie it back into what you had brought up to the audience in the first segment about this income gap, and you said everything right now is going down. You were showing me a report. You showed where this is one of the worst starts to the stock market since like 1939.
The stock market is getting crushed so far right now because of a lot of factors. But the main factor is the government, the Federal Reserve, raising interest rates. And that is a negative to the stock market. And we were hearing maybe there's going to be 50 basis point hikes, 25 basis point hikes. It's getting to the point now where I just heard on the news a couple days ago, they're looking at 75 basis point hikes.
95% chance of
95% chance of a 75 basis point hike in interest rates. That's going to kill the market, which it's doing.
Yeah.
And it's going to kill the safe haven for the retiree who's looking to go to bonds, who's been told go to bonds for protection. It's crushing them as well.
Well, you know, it's interesting when you say bonds, because I know you were telling me at lunch today that there's a difference between a bond, owning a bond individually, and a bond mutual fund and an exchange traded fund, ETF. And I feel like that's where most everyone today is buying their bonds. So you're saying there's a little bit difference when the rates go up, it's affecting those mutual funds and ETFs more.
Exactly. Yeah, because when the rates do go up, the individual bonds go down, and then inside the ETFs and mutual funds, there's a bunch of bonds, different bonds and different terms inside those mutual funds. So it's having a nasty effect on all of them. So there's no safe haven whether you're in a bond, a corporate bond, or an ETF or a mutual fund, bond fund. There's no safe haven there.
You were showing me the report. Yeah, the average bond fund's down 10 to 13%.
10 to 13% in 2022, and that's supposed to be the safe money this year.
Worst bond market since 1981.
The S&P 500 I saw was down almost 22%. The Nasdaq was down almost 30%, and bonds are down as well. Where does the client go? They don't know what to do. They're panicking.
And you got a Fed that has to get this under control, and they're saying, you know, it's time to pay the.
Who's going to keep on raising rates?
Yeah, because they have to.
They have to.
Because we can't keep paying $5 in gasoline. Have you been to the grocery store lately?
Yeah, I kind of eat a little bit.
Do you do the shopping?
I do. Sometimes I do. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes I do.
I can't believe the prices in the stores.
It's insane. It's insane.
Chicken going through the roof, and they have to get control with it.
They say groceries are up over 22% in 2020, over the last year.
So you got groceries up over 20%, gasoline at its all-time high, everything is more expensive, and now we've got an economy that's probably freaking out because the Federal Reserve is saying
the market's getting hit, and
we have to raise.
Exactly. And don't forget, Joe, energy costs. You know, people put air conditioning on in the summer, they put heat on in the winter. The energy costs to heat and cool your house is 30 to 40% higher than it used to be. See, a car, you can almost tell somebody, drive a little less, but you have to eat. You have to protect yourself in your home, with heat and air conditioning. So those things you can't adjust.
So at DPS Advisors, if someone's calling in off the show, and thank you for taking the time to be here. I know your phone lines have been crazy. And
they've been really crazy.
I appreciate you being here and doing this for folks. When folks are coming in and they're seeing this turmoil and all these markets going down and the news of the Fed continuing, what are some options that maybe some folks should do, and what are you just kind of helping folks out with there at DPS?
So that's a great question, Joe. So basically, when a client comes into our office for the first time, the first thing we're going to do is say, hey, listen, don't bring anything with you right now. We need you to come into our office, stress-free environment. Susie will make you a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a water, soda, a snack, and let's just have a conversation about what's going on in your financial life. Let's see if we can help you. Let's see if you're a fit for our firm. You'll see if we're a fit for you. And then in that first meeting, we'll get that feeling whether we can work together. And then we're going to introduce our DPS report, which is basically going to give you a roadmap into all the different aspects of your retirement plan, whether it's fighting the Fed, whether it's stock market volatility, taxes on qualified plans. We haven't hit that yet, Joe. We will later today. So, every aspect of your financial plan, we'll give you that second opinion and let you make some educated decisions.
I saw a report this morning that some of these high-flying growth stocks are down 80%, 70%, 60%. And a lot of that's a credit to the Fed raising this rate, as you were telling me.
Right.
And so I just, my heart, it breaks for folks that I can't imagine seeing a statement that's coming in and just losing that type of money.
Well, we're seeing that all the time. And my question to the client is like, why are you in these stocks?
Yeah.
Why are you in tech stocks right now? You're 70 years old, 75 years old, 65 years old, however old you are. You shouldn't be in that. You're investing like you're a 30-year-old. You need to be investing like your age-appropriate investor.
You read some things about, behavior and just what always worked is going to continue to work. And obviously, what you're saying is that is not the case right now with this Fed.
Right.
We've got a different market, don't we?
Yeah, we have a totally different market. People haven't seen this environment really in 40 years.
Wow.
Because we've had artificially low interest rates since the crash in 2008. So for 14 years, we've been in a really low interest rate environment, no interest basically for a lot of those years. And everyone thought everything was great. The stock market's humming artificially and everything's going great. But now when you have to pay the piper and we have to start paying off these things that we've been getting for free in this country, this is what happens. Everything's going down. So you need to use the right types of tools to hedge against these losses.
So if I call in off today's show, and I know I want to give you a chance here, you want to talk to some folks about your DPS report. So if I call in off the show, our first time together is just going to be a conversation. I'm going to bring some statements, and we're just going to have a conversation.
Well, yeah, actually, we're going to tell you don't bring any statements.
Okay,
but
great.
If you want to bring them, you can.
Yeah.
So that's fine. And then we'll have a great conversation with you, and we'll introduce the DPS report, which is basically going to be an analysis, a complementary analysis on all the different things that can affect your retirement plan. Your interest might be taxes. Somebody else's interest is inflation, income gap. Somebody else's estate planning, long-term care planning. So whatever that is, we'll talk about. And in our DPS report, we'll be able to address that in future meetings and try and clean up or fix the issues that we've come across. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you think you have an issue, you don't know what's going on in your life, or you're scared, or you're nervous with what's going on in this economy, you need to dial 844-534-4452 and get your DPS report. Our staff is on hand now, waiting to hear from you, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Folks, the phone lines are open, and we said this in the first segment. You get one shot at retirement. We're seeing record volatility. We're seeing all types of movement in these markets. And you and your family owe it to yourselves to reach out and dial 844-534-4452 and just tell the folks on the other line, I want my DPS report, and get a chance to meet and talk with John Papa. But you have to act. We want you to dial that phone. Our next segment, John, when we come back, we are going to be talking about the tax man. I can't wait to get your thoughts on this, buddy. Folks, we'll be right back with you.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
New Jersey, welcome back to the Papa Report. We're joined here with John Papa, president of DPS Advisors. John, I'm loving this show. We talked about in the last segment that you're gonna get on your hot button, buddy, the tax man.
Oh my God, Joe. it's what we call the greatest trick ever played.
I love that.
In 1978, the government changed the rules on the American public. Prior to 78, most people worked for a company for 40 years, 30, 40 years, and they got a pension. They were able to retire. They got a gold watch. They got a pat on the back, maybe a cake. And they said, listen, go home, and every first of the month, we're going to send you a couple $1,000s, whatever your pension is. You're going to get health care benefits for life. You worked your butt off for our company, and you got a pension. And then in 1978, the rules totally changed. The government took the focus off the employer and moved it to the employee. They created the 401k, which is today's version of a retirement plan.
Right.
But what that did, Joe, is it actually put the onus and the purpose on the employee. So now the employee has to figure out how much money can I contribute to this plan. Before, I didn't have to pay for a pension. I got it.
Mailbox money.
I just worked. I went to work and I was getting a pension. Now I actually have to take some of my earned income and put it into an investment that I can't touch till I'm 59 and a half. And I have to pick investments to invest in. Then I have to figure out, which not a lot of people know about, there are taxes that you will eventually have to pay. And when you started this 401k in 1978, the tax laws were a little different than they are today.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
Now we have $30 trillion in federal deficit.
Unbelievable.
So where do we think taxes are going?
Well, they're going to go up.
They have to go up, right? So how could you plan a retirement in a qualified plan not knowing what your tax rate's going to be on the way out? That's why we call it the greatest trick ever played on the employees.
What they did is they almost let compounding interest work. What thanks is for the person saving, but
against you.
Uncle Sam's getting to collect a bigger. So that's being taxed at income when they take that out.
In your highest tax bracket at that time when you take it out. So let me give you an example, Joe, of how this actually works for somebody. So let's say you have a 35-year-old kid who is working at a company and he figures out he can save $5,000 a year into this 401k plan. And he saves it for 30 years. He's 65 years old now, doesn't get the watch and doesn't get a pension anymore. He gets kicked out because they want to pay lower salaries to new people. But he put away $155,000 in a 30-year period, right? He got a tax deduction for that.
That's right.
But what we also got was, hey, you're 65 years old. You have till 72 to let it just sit there, okay? But at 72, we're going to start making you take money out of that plan. It's called the required minimum distribution.
RMD, I've heard of that.
And based on earnings in the account, we can track it where your distributions out of that plan will be about $580,000 to the employee if you live to life expectancy. But then at life expectancy, when you and your demise, there's still $600,000 left in that qualified plan that's going to go to the kids and grandkids that you just gave a tax bill to. So for this game that the government plays, you got a deduction for $155, so your family can pay taxes on $1.1 million.
Oh my word!
And we don't even know what the tax rates are going to be when you get to those stages in your life.
So if I pull up my 401k right now, you're telling me that's not all my money?
No. You have a partner. You know who that is?
Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam.
Nice trick.
The IRS. How great is that?
Well, I don't know how great it is. I think it's interesting you said something, and I never really thought about it. So when we pass, if all of our money is in the 401k or in an IRA, and we do pass, and that goes to our kids, it's almost like giving them a birthday cake and then a bill to go along with it.
Yeah, you got to pay for the cake.
And
if you want candles, you got to pay for them too.
Good night. Now the rules changed too because the kids. I remember you telling me something about this. The kids can't. The stretch is gone or something? No,
Joe, that's a great point. What you used to be able to do until a couple of years ago, those children or kids or grandkids can stretch those payments out over their lifetime.
Right?
No more. Now you have to take all those funds out within a 10-year period. So you're losing the stretch value of that qualified plan.
So possibly these folks are having to take this money out and maybe some of their highest income earning years if they're in their 40s and 50s and maybe early 60s before they retire.
Exactly. So they're working full time, making a good salary. Maybe the spouse is working. They're both. We have a lot of dual income families in the country now.
Inflation, it's expensive, John.
Both people have to work, right?
Right.
So now think about, so now you're that age, you're making good money, and now your parents' qualified plan comes on down to you, and you have to take it out over a 10-year period. So just add, in that same example, $600,000, you divide it by 10, that's $60 grand a year. If you're an only child, add $60 grand to your income.
You had mentioned this.
They'll be in the highest tax bracket.
You had mentioned this to me. I think it's important for you to bring it up. I know that there's a current window under the current tax law. And I know it could change anytime. Touch on that right now. What some folks, I know there's some strategies they can do now.
Right. So under the current tax code, which is set to expire, I believe, in 2028, I think it's going till, there are strategies that you can do. If you're not at age 72 yet, you can reduce the amount of money you have in that qualified plan by doing what we call a Roth conversion. You can take some money out of that plan on an annual basis, pay a little tax now, and move it into a Roth IRA that will be tax-free forever to you and your kids and grandkids. So there's some strategies in place as long as you haven't reached the required minimum distribution age of 72.
Now, why wouldn't I do all that at once?
Well, because think about it. So you have $600,000 in your parents' qualified plan IRA. You take it all out at once, you're going to pay income taxes on $600,000 added to your current
plus what I'm already
working
earning.
income.
So I'm all the way up there.
Yeah, you're looking at half your money's gone to the IRS.
So there's a plan and a strategy that goes into it with
Definitely
future
a plan and
income
strategy,
planning.
Joe, and we look at that all the time, and that's part of the DPS report that clients are going to get.
Tell us about that. I know you got a special offer for the first 10 callers today.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel like you have tax issues with your qualified plans, which everybody does, you need to call 1-844-534-4452, and we're going to actually dig deep into your qualified plans, and we're going to show those projections out and see if there are strategies that we can put into place so we can reduce that tax burden to you and your family. So again, dial 844-534-4452. If you have a tax problem on your qualified plans, which everybody does, you should dial that number, and our team is standing by waiting for you.
So, John, I take a few takeaways here before we have to wrap up the show. I hear you started the show with we've got this income gap and Social Security and changes that needs some planning. We talked about the crazy volatility from inflation and what the Federal Reserve is doing to the market and how that's affecting everyone's savings right now. And then you hit us with this whammy with all of this money in our IRAs and our 401k is not ours. All of that seems to me this is the time to do planning.
Absolutely, Joe. I mean, it sounds like everything's doom and gloom, right? And we're not we don't live in a doom and gloom world, okay? We want to be positive for our clients. There are so many solutions out there, but you have to actually act. You can't just sit there on your couch and do nothing and think everything's going to be better. It's not. You have to plan. You have to create a plan for you and your family, and we'll help you do that with a DPS report.
Folks, imagine a day when you have a detailed planned out for your retirement. You know where your income is coming. You have a clear understanding of a tax strategy with these crazy tax changes that are happening every few years in the market. This is your opportunity to dial 844-534-4452. Tell the folks on the other line you want the DPS report and you want to talk to John Papa. You owe it to yourself and your family to have the retirement of your dreams, but you got to call that number. Thanks so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Papa Report.